What's going on, everybody? I'm Nick with Martech Engineering, and behind me is our next shop project. This is a 2021 Toyota Tacoma with a bunch of goodies on it already. So before we get any further, why don't we just go over what's going on with this thing at the moment. The front of this truck is rocking a Marlin Crawler long travel kit with an ADS coilover and an ADS bypass. It's on a 37-inch BFG with some KMC beadlocks. Under the hood is a 3.5 liter with a gorgeous Magnuson supercharger. The funniest thing though about this truck is these 3.5s are so gutless that you put a supercharger on them, and in my opinion, it really just drives how they should from the beginning. But we're not complaining. It's cool, it sounds good, and it finally gets out of its own way. Moving on to the rear of this truck, it's pretty simple. It's not crazy far from stock. It's got a Deaver spring overpack on it. It has our shock relocation kit on it with a ADS 12-inch bypass, along with an ADS air bump. But after getting all this done and taking it out to shock tune it, the customer just wasn't happy with the rear suspension. That's where we come in. This truck is going to be getting our newest rendition of our trailing arm kit. Typically our kits are just mounting a coilover in the back. This is going to be running a coilover and a bypass. All fresh stuff from ADS. We're gonna be running their 2 1/8 coilover and a 2.5-inch bypass. I'm pretty sure this kit will fit a 3-inch bypass. That's something we'll be able to verify once this is all together. For now, this is plenty of shock for the job, and we know it's gonna fit. This thing's running a modified version of our fabricated trailing arm. We obviously had to make some changes to it to get 2 shocks on each side. You can see we've got a bigger shock hoop here for it, and I'm really excited to get this going. So I think that's enough talking. I think it's time for us to get to work. Obviously this trailing arm looks different because it runs 2 shocks instead of 1, but there's actually a lot of other changes that we made to this arm, really just to try some new stuff out. The way we did our current trailing arm works really well, but we wanted to see if we could get a little bit of the welding out of the process. So we broke the bottom piece to come up the sides in hopes that it would take a little bit of welding away. I'm not sure what it'll weigh out to be in the long run, but there are a couple different things in this. I think it looks really good. I think the old ones look really good too. So I got one of them put together before I started recording, just so I get my head around how they go together. Lots of jumping back from the computer out to here to make sure I got everything exactly how it should be. And you and I are going to build the next arm together, so let's get to it. So there you have it. The whole kit's all welded up. Trailing arms are all put together. Got the uniballs in them with lots of anti-seize. Just finished welding the upper link. And with this all done, we're gonna get that truck on the rack and start ripping it apart. All right, supervisor's here. Go ahead and tell us what we're doing.
I'm about to something up, that's for sure. All right, that fixed itself, I see. All right, so we're gonna mount this right back on here.
All right.
I don't know what you're fucking doing to this thing.
Do you think we're gonna cut any of that off?
Yeah, I think it's getting a coilover and a bypass, so he can go super fast.
So you're gonna do, what are you gonna cut off of this?
Oh, I'm not cutting anything, but Ethan over here, he's gonna be cutting all of this. No respirator.
All right, so Austin's not very good at telling people what we're doing.
Yes, I am.
It's like he just showed up or something, but we're gonna cut the old bump stop mounts off, the old shock towers off.
You gonna have these?
Yeah, you can have those, 20 bucks. And then we're gonna cut these off. You can see we got the sliders off. The sliders are outside. Over there, Frank's chilling with his toy. Well, I haven't grabbed them yet. Got all the weld surfaces prepped for these frame plates to go on. Got the trailing arm bracket spot prepped and laid out. Upper link bracket spots prepped right there. And all of our frame side stuff is here. So trailing arm brackets, pan hard stuff, upper link, shock towers, and frame plates. So it is time to get to work. So we have all the axle side brackets on that we know exactly where they go, exactly how they're gonna fit. But what we don't know is how those shock towers are gonna fit. I know they're gonna take a little bit of trimming to fit around the bed mount bracket. So we're gonna fit these up and we're gonna mark out where they have to be trimmed to sit all the way up against those frame plates. And then we're gonna put the bed back on before we stick the shock towers on this thing, because the last thing I'm trying to do is mount some shock towers and have the bed not fit back on it. So the shock tower took a little more trimming than I would have liked. It didn't fit perfect, but that's why we prototype stuff in-house so that we can fix it before it makes it out into the world with you guys. Oh, that looks good. Be sweet. Truck's all tacked up. Axle time. Saturday morning, you guys saw we got the kit all together yesterday, and there's a couple changes we had to make to the shock towers on it. And instead of taking all the measurements and sending them over to Josh and going back and forth as far as like, oh, tweak this, do that, I figured we'll just scan the thing with the shock towers where they need to be. He can take his pre-existing files, take his scans, overlap everything, and then from there, just do the math and get it dialed in all on the computer. Bed's off, shocks are back on. I went ahead and cut these off, and I built a new bracket. You can see here that actually drops the pickup point on the axle down 1 inch to get 1 more inch of up travel out of this thing. I noticed that the way we had put it together left a little bit of travel on the table. Wanted to move it up tighter. So now we're nice and tight, limited by the clearance from the upper link to the frame. And it's pretty close on the panhard bar to the frame as well. So we're happy with that. We're at a good point where we can start mounting the bump stops and then get the sway bar in this thing and start welding this thing out. So we got our bump stop mounts in. These are the axle side bump stop pads. They'll sit somewhere like this. So we're gonna go ahead and get these on next so that we can get the bump stop mounts on after. All right, so we got the bump pads on, we got the bump stop mounts on. Next thing to do is just put these bump cans in. With this design, it makes it super easy. Once we've got full bump set and everything's in place, we literally just put this thing in its place like this. Make sure it's nice and square to the axle. A couple taps with the hammer, make sure it's nice and tight. And that's it. A couple tacks and we are done with this. So we got the bed back on. I already got the sway bar set up. I forgot to show you guys that. But it's done. It's pretty snug at full bump. Full droop, it's not terrible. I'll bump this thing out real quick and show you guys how it looks full bump. So you can see it packages pretty tight. Full bump is the tightest it's gonna be. As the axle goes back to ride height, it's got miles of room. Limit straps are all tabbed out, obviously. I think we're about done with the bottom side of this thing. Everything as far as fabrication, fit up is done on this thing. The next step is gonna be to weld it all out. I took the bed back off, the sway bar's off so far, but now it's time to finally break this whole thing down, get it up in the air, and weld the whole thing out. Truck is painted, it's starting to go back together. Axles all painted, links are painted, trailing arms are painted. So it's time to put this thing back together so we can get it on the ground. So we got all the suspension on. The bed is, it's got a hole in it for the fuel lines to go. So now it's time to put the bed on and hopefully this all fits. Kitty? Yeah, so now we're gonna put the bed on. We're almost done with this bad boy. We've got the fuel filler neck all built. I saved you guys the process of watching me build that. It wasn't too fun. Got the shock reservoirs mounted up in this thing. Next thing we're gonna be doing is throwing the fender liners in it, getting this fender back on, gas tank skid, exhaust. I'm gonna go test this thing. Pretty close. Fender liners back in. God, that looks good. I think we put a tire on this. We stick this fender on, and I think that's the back of it almost done. Ethan's working on the exhaust, so stop looking at me and look at him. Ethan nailed this damn exhaust. Came out exactly how we wanted it to. All of it's polished stainless, so it's gonna be nice and clean. All that's left now is to pull this back out and weld it. So we got the exhaust all back in this thing, hooking the battery back up now. We're gonna fire this thing up and hear how it sounds. It's quiet. Actually really what I was hoping for, so it sounds pretty good. I don't think you wanted it much louder than stock. But I got a strong feeling that with the resonator, but that muffler combo, when you start to get on the throttle, will probably sound pretty good. I say we'll let this thing warm up for a minute, give it a couple of revs, see if it passes the sound check, then we can really finish this damn truck up. Is it too quiet?
I mean,
For us, probably.
but for homeboy, it's probably just
That's probably Titty City. stock fuel filler, rerouted, takes a full speed pump. Happy about that. No way. Let's go. Let's go. All right. Well, we've gone a couple of times and it seems okay. Doesn't seem like it's gonna break. So I found a couple whoops up here. I think we're gonna go up there and see what we can do. Feels pretty good. The ass end likes to slide a little bit. It's light on weight. This thing is not in its final form. It's sprung to have about 150 to 200 pounds in the bed, so the rear bucks a little bit. The shocks are straight out of the box. But for what we got here and for what we're able to do without having to touch anything, I haven't messed with any of the spring preload, nothing. I'm stoked with it. And with that being said, I don't like ripping other people's cars because if I break it, I gotta fix it. So I think we're gonna go home. And there you have it. We got this thing done. We took it out and tested it. We're gonna give it a bath, and I think the owner's coming for it in like an hour. He's antsy to get this thing back for the weekend, the same way I would be. We got Courtney in the red Tacoma eating a burrito right now. Shout out Jake for the burrito. Shout out Jake for the hoodie. This build came out pretty badass. I'm super happy with it, and I really can't wait to see it get shock tuned, because then we're gonna really dial it in. So if you like today's video, you know the deal. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. If you think this truck sucks, talk some shit in the comments. I say the same thing every time. Just do whatever you want. I don't care. We'll see you later.